Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Edmonton. My name is Jeff Bisanz. My pronouns are he, his, him, among others. And I'm your service leader this morning. I'll be joined by our minister of the musical, Reverend Rosemary Morrison. We hope that you online, you in the sanctuary, you who are visiting, and you watching at some future date on YouTube, we hope that all of you feel welcome this morning. The Unitarian Church of Edmonton is a liberal, religious, multi-generational community. We celebrate a rich mosaic of free-thinking, spiritually questing individuals joined in common support and action. Whatever your heritage, whatever your faith, whomever you are, whomever you love, however you identify, you are welcome here. I should note that for those of you who are new here, this church is one of two Unitarian Universalist churches in Edmonton, the other being the Westwood Unitarian congregation in the Park Allen neighborhood. We gather with gratitude this morning on Treaty 6 land. We recognize that a treaty is an inheritance, a responsibility, and a relationship. May this recognition help us to be good neighbors to one another, good stewards to our planet, and good ancestors to all our children. We are grateful as well to all the volunteers who make the service possible. This list includes the greeters and ushers here in the sanctuary, all the people who work to deliver the service online, and those who created the service with words, with images, and music. As we begin this special time together, I invite you to quiet your devices so that we can all enjoy the service. And to make sure this service starts out with a bang, I invite you, we will begin with some announcements. So we'll start with Jan McMillan.
Good morning, good morning. I want to make sure that you all come to enjoy some wonderful soup and pretzel and buns after the service, and there's lots there, so please come and stay and enjoy a wonderful time together.
Thank you, Jan. If you start to leave before the end of the service, I'm going to feel offended because you smelled all the good smells. Pauline, you're next.
Good morning. My name is Pauline Atwood, and I'm one of the facilitators of the Soul Matters group. Many people have registered, and I'm heartened to see that because it means that a lot of people will benefit from the personal Soul Matters spiritual journey. A list has been compiled of all of the interested people, and I will be sending out an email giving more information and making sure that you have a contact in the next few days. I'll do that. Last week was the deadline to register for Soul Matters. However, it was Thanksgiving weekend, and many maybe have thought that they were going to register, but somehow that slipped their mind. So you can still do that. I'll be in the lobby at the desk. Reverend Rosemary. Oh, Audrey.
Next. Thank you. Okay, Audrey.
Scott Sharplin asked me to invite people who haven't heard that his mother, Bonnie Sharplin, died last Tuesday, to come to the memorial service that's at 6:15 here tonight. And you're all invited, especially people who have known Bonnie. She had a list to have visitors for her birthday, which was what would have been today. So anyway, I'm just passing that information on. 6:15 tonight here.
There we go. Hi. Good morning. My name is the Reverend Rosemary Morrison. It is my pleasure and honor to serve this congregation. And this morning, I'm doing a little bit of triple duty. So that's good. Keeps me on my toes, keep me young, and my brain nimble. As you heard, there's going to be a soup Sunday today, but also next Friday, this coming Friday, I'm going to be hosting what I call Fridays are for food and fun. So at 5:30 after work, you can just come here and I'm going to make a pot of chili. You can make something to go with that or something that doesn't go with that, or you can bring nothing but yourself and your smile and maybe your neighbor. The idea for doing this on the third Friday of every month is so that we have an additional time to just get together and have fun. I'll have board games out, and apparently the community leagues have a lawn bowling set that we can set up in Keeler Hall, but it's not quite ready to rent yet. So watch for that. In the middle of winter, we can do lawn bowling in Keeler Hall on Fridays or for food and fun. Don't you think that'll be fun? Absolutely, says John, our resident lawn bowler. Also, in case you haven't heard, I'd like to give you a update on one of our music directors, Gordon Ritchie, our beloved music director, choir director, is waiting in hospital. Am I correct still for his angiogram? Thank you, Robert. Tomorrow he's getting his angiogram and then will be most likely discharged from the cardiac unit at Covenant House, Grey Nuns, down in Mill Woods. I've seen him a couple of times, and Robert's been in to see him, and he's going to be fine. There's no permanent heart damage to his heart. There's some blockage, and they'll be able to look after that. So before you know it, he'll be back at the piano, and you won't have to suffer through my piano playing. My piano's better than your piano, says Sheila. Okay. I think that's it. All right.
So next on the menu, we have a time of contemplation and music with a prelude by Rosemary, Reverend Rosemary, who will play a Celtic piece by Phil Coulter.
Our opening words this morning are by Karen G. Johnson. As we gather this morning, let us be a people of not forgetting. Let us practice holding collective memories that might otherwise slip into that enormous void that sucks at and corrodes any future we hold dear. Let us practicing honoring self-truth, truth-telling up from the past that must come fully into the now, lest we falter and fail, lest the whole world remain in peace. Let not our need for comfort or simplicity, for easy forgiveness or false pardon smother the heartbreak that still needs healing. Let us practice resilience with reckoning. Let us marry memory and promise. Let us dance in the tension we find there. Let us rest in the integrity that we cultivate there. Let us be partners with the possibility that emerges there. It is good that we gather today together. And I invite Jeff to come and read the chalice lighting words, and Bonnie to light the chalice.
Thank you, Bonnie. I have a reading selected by Reverend Rosemary. It's called Invoking the Past, Present, and Future by Katie Romano Griffin. Come, let us enter this space of hope and community. Come, let us enter this space with our sorrows, our joys, our passion, and our compassion. Come, let us enter this space with the stories of our ancestors, for their strength and wisdom beats in our hearts. Come into this space, present to the beloved companions who move beside us. Come into this space, mindful that together we are building a future for other generations. Come into this space and let us worship. Thank you, Bonnie. Our opening hymn is number 354, We Laugh, We Cry. The words will appear on the screen behind me, but it's up to you to make them musical. Those online, feel free to belt it out and tell your neighbors to send any complaints about the volume to our president, Brandy Muller-Reed. Please stand as you're willing and able to join in singing number 354.
We
Thank you all. It's now time for all ages. Bernard Ehaltpies has been volunteered to read the book.
Good morning. This morning we will be reading from the book called Maybe, a story about the endless potential in all of us. It is written by Kobi Yamada and illustrated by Gabriella Baoruch. At this time, we will be pausing the recording as this is a copyrighted material. For those of you watching on YouTube at a later date, please feel free to peruse this material at your own time.
Our church community is entirely self-governing and self-supporting. One of the responsibilities of a free church tradition is that we must provide all the financial support for the work of our church. In addition, we also make a monthly contribution beyond our walls. 1/2 of the unidentified cash that is received is given to an outside organization. For the month of October, we are sharing our abundance with Child Haven International. As many of you know, this is the charity founded and sustained through the leadership of Bonnie and Fred Cappuccino. Inspired by the ideals and philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi, Child Haven International assists children and women in developing countries who need food, education, health care, shelter, clothing, and emotional and moral support. If you want to learn more or make direct donations, you can go to the website of Child Haven International. For those of you here in the sanctuary, if you wish to receive a tax receipt for your gift, you can use the envelopes found in the inside cover of the gray hymnal book in the back, or on the table at the back of the sanctuary. Many of our members and friends give monthly or annually through automatic withdrawal from their accounts. For those of you online, you can visit the Change for Children website to donate. Ushers, you can begin. We thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your generosity, everyone. Today's message, which Reverend Rosemary will deliver in a few minutes, is where we come from, how digging into our roots can give us wings. The part where we come from reminds me of what I suppose is Paul Gauguin's masterpiece, the title of which is, Where Do We Come From? What Are We? Where Are We Going? Gauguin wrote about the paintings as depicting the life cycle of human beings, from infancy through aging, Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Over 100 years later, Ronald Wright used the same three questions to organize his thinking about the life cycle of civilizations. He described his thoughts in a Massey lecture and in an excellent book entitled A Short History of Progress. At the level of societies, not individuals, he was asking, where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? The same three questions could have motivated Richard Rubinstein, who wrote a book I recently borrowed from the library. By the way, there are some excellent books in that library. The full title of Rubinstein's book is When Jesus Became God, The Struggle to Define Christianity During the Last Days of Rome. Here the focus is not on individuals or civilizations, but on Christianity during the 5th century, when Christians were arguing about and killing each other over the relationship between God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit. Christians were trying to answer the three questions. Where do we as a religion come from? What are we? Where are we going? So later, Reverend Rosemary will get us to think about where the Unitarian Church of Edmonton as a community has come from. We should all watch to see whether this is just a sneaky way to get us to think not only about the first question, but about the other two. If so, it's not a bad strategy. If the three questions are useful to getting people to think seriously about individual life cycles, the rise and fall of civilizations, and the evolution of major religious concepts, then chances are good that those same three questions are bound to be useful for helping us think about the development of our community here. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Well, right now, let's go to our next hymn. It's number 1051. We are, for those online, the text will appear on your screen. Please rise in body and spirit as we sing together hymn 1051.
Amen.
Am I on? Yeah. Well, I'm going to need a nap after this. Holy smokes. So Gordon is in the hospital, as I said, and our other pianist, Karen Mills, is in Portugal. So her fingers don't reach the piano here this morning. And I am remembering that I don't like this lectern because, see what I can do here. I know, thank you, Allison, thank you. I am not complaining. No, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. All right, I'd like to invite us into a time of meditation, of reflection, of some contemplation. Thank you for bringing the lights down. And I invite you to, as always, by invitation and never by demand, to plant your feet on the ground. Take a couple of deep cleansing breaths and feel the life-giving air entering your body and your body claiming from that air what it needs to survive. Can you feel it? Can you feel that air coming into your body? You take what you need and then let the rest go. Give yourself a little wiggle in your chair if you've got some tension. Roll your shoulders and wiggle. Find those spots where we hold the tension. The way the meditation is going to go today, I'm going to read a poem called Remember by Joy Harjo. Probably going to read it twice, and then there'll be a few moments of silence, and then I'll bring you in with the meditation hymn, Voice Still and Small, and the words will come up on the screen. I think it'd be lovely, if possible, if we had some harmonies. If you're here from the choir and can sing in harmony, or not from the choir and can sing in harmony, I invite you to do that. Another big breath as we enter into a time of meditation and contemplation. Remember the sky that you were born under. Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon. Know who she is. Remember the sun's birth at dawn. That is the strongest point of time. Remember sundown and the giving away tonight. Remember your birth, how your mother struggled to give you form and breath. You are evidence of her life and her mother's and hers. Remember your father. He is your life also. Remember the earth whose skin you are, red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life, who all have their tribes, their families, their histories too. Talk to them. Listen to them. They are alive poems. Remember the wind. Remember her voice. She knows the origin of this universe. Remember that you are all people and that all people are you. Remember you are this universe and this universe is you. Remember all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember language comes from this. Remember the dance language is, that life is. Remember. Remember the sky you were born under? Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon? know who she is. Remember the sun's birth at dawn. That is the strongest point of time. Remember sundown and the giving away tonight. Remember your birth, how your mother struggled to give you life and form and breath. You are evidence of their life and their mothers and theirs. Remember your father. They are your life also. Remember the earth whose skin you are, red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life, who all have their tribes, their families, their histories too. Talk to them, listen to them. They are alive poems. Remember the wind, remember her voice. She knows the origin of this universe. Remember you are all people and all people are you. Remember you are this universe and this universe is you. Remember all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember language comes from this. Remember the dance language is, that life is. Remember. And now a few moments of shared silence. Well, if I would have known I was doing the piano also, I probably would have done this a little bit differently, but here we are. How digging into our roots can give us wings where we come from. And no, I actually hadn't thought of that poem, like the Gauguin reading when I wrote this. So interesting. You asked me about that at choir practice, and I was like, huh? The reading this morning is from Reverend Rod Richards' sermon of April 3rd, 2016, titled Roots, Hold Me Close, which is where I got the idea for this sermon. He is serving the Unitarian Universalist congregation in San Luis Obispo, and he begins with a quote from Earl Morse Wilbur. If asked when and where Unitarianism was first organized, the average person would be likely to answer that it was in North America, or perhaps in England, about the beginning of the 19th century, writes historian Earl Morse Wilbur. I think he's wrong. If asked when and where Unitarianism was first organized, the average person would not have a clue. If asked when and where Unitarianism was first organized, the average Unitarian Universalist congregant, would have some difficulty responding. Now, this is not because of any particular failing on the part of the average Unitarian Universalist. There are a variety of factors that contribute to this, but one of these factors is that Unitarianism has undergone massive changes in history, and significant change even since Earl Morse Wilbur wrote these words less than 100 years ago in 1925. For one, we are now Unitarian Universalists. So when we talk about our history, we are not only talking about the history of Unitarianism, but also the history of Universalism and the history of Unitarian Universalism. Say that 10 times fast and backwards, since the merger in 1961. Also, we have changed from once being identified as two Christian denominations to becoming, well, whatever it is we are. When we ask where Unitarianism was first organized, and you will find that even though we are Unitarian Universalists, we often use Unitarian as shorthand. Sometimes wonder which Unitarianism we're talking about. Well, Unitarianism, God, he says this a lot, doesn't he? Sorry, I just swore. Unitarianism was born in the Reformation in Europe, most notably in Transylvania, where it is still very much alive today. And Transylvania is now a region of Romania. That history found a particular cultural expression within its country, just as it found and continues to find particular cultural expressions in places around the world. So it seems like there is the Unitarianism of yesterday, and then there's the Unitarian Universalism that our congregations practice today. And that connection can feel, well, pretty darn weak. Are we really the same people? Is this history our history? Or is it irrelevant to who we are today? John Bisanz and Forrester Church put their respective fingers on a piece of the disconnect. Our merged tradition is named after two doctrines. Unitarianism refers to a belief in the unity of God, distinguishing early Unitarians from Trinitarians. So that's the difference between why we're Unitarians. We believe, or it started out that we believed in one God instead of the Holy Trinity. So that's how we were defined. And Universalism affirms salvation for all people. So it distinguished Universalists from the rest of Europe at that time, from Calvinism and many others that taught eternal damnation. The two have come together to form the most doctrinally free of all denominations. In other words, there's no doctrine, there's nothing that is we are free from telling you what to believe. So in a doctrinal church or denomination, they're going to tell you what to believe and how to believe it. Unitarian Universalism, we shy away from that quite a bit. But ironically, Unitarian Universalist has two doctrines in its name. That's the end of that quote. How many of you knew that Unitarianism was around since the 16th century? It started in the 1500s. Quite a few of you. Yeah, probably. And that it originated in Transylvania. We knew that. Yep, that's great. Not vampires or Bela Lugosi. The reason, as Reverend Rod alluded to, was because in Western Europe, you had to profess belief in a Trinitarian God. And if you didn't, you'd be put to death, as many were. So you had to profess faith. You had to say that you believed in the Holy Trinity. Otherwise, you would be executed. Unitarians have always been heretics. I agree with that. I too am a heretic. Also, an interesting fact that heretic in Greek means choice. Isn't that interesting? We are heretics because we want choices. And what's the joke? If there's 3 Unitarians in the room, there's 5 decisions, or there's 5 opinions, 5 choices. We want to make up our own minds, don't we? And that is what has made us heretics. So in the 16th century, people would travel to Transylvania to have conversation. Even Calvin went to Transylvania to have conversations and free discussions about religion. It was the only place in Europe in the 16th century that people could actually talk freely about religion and not be put to death. The Edict of Torda was issued in 1568 and was one of the first edicts of religious freedom in European history. And Unitarianism became the official religion of Transylvania at that time. And many of you probably know that Unitarians have been persecuted throughout Europe and England, which is also part of Europe, and around the globe, for believing in Unitarianism and Unitarian Universalism. In fact, my friend and colleague Fulgence Nagadjamati, who maybe some of you have met, he was a Unitarian minister in Burundi, and he was jailed and threatened with his life, and a whole bunch of Canadians got together and freed him from prison and brought him here. Unitarianism is still going strong in Romania, and we would find their beliefs much more Bible-based than what Unitarianism has evolved into today. For example, they take communion regularly. Most services, they have Holy Communion. And they preach from the Bible more than we would here. I regularly do not preach from the Bible. Once in a while I should, though, don't you think? Yes, there are Christians among us. They are clandestine and closeted, but they are here. And we need to be nice. We need to be nicer to our Unitarian Christians. I wrote a sermon once, I'm a Unitarian unless you're a Christian. We are not nice enough to the Christians among us. I feel quite strongly about that, you might have noticed. So Unitarians escaped the persecution they found in Western Europe in the 1700s, and they escaped to the East Coast of the United States, where it was kind of a major religion there. And has anybody been in Boston? Yeah, did you notice how many Unitarian churches are in Boston? Every street corner, almost every street corner. And did you know that most of the signers of the Declaration of Independence in the United States were Unitarians? So Universalism was a very Christian-based religion, denomination. They believed in the Trinity. However, they believed that everyone was already saved. So they were heretics as well, because they didn't believe in eternal damnation or original sin. They just believe that all of us were going to heaven or whatever is next. The theology behind this belief is a little more complicated, and there were different types of universalism, like you're saved automatically, or maybe you have to have like a little bit of time and do a little bit after you die before you get to go to heaven. There's just this kind of absolute universalism. So all these different kinds of ideas. But they believed that God was simply too merciful to have created humanity in God's image and then damn them to eternal hell. So what's the point of that, says Universalists. Universalism started in the United States in the 18th century. So do you know the difference between a Unitarian and a Universalist? Coffee time? No, that's not it. They both have coffee time. Even most denominations do. So Universalists believe that God is too nice to damn them. And Universalists believe they're too good to be damned. It's a joke. In case if you have to tell somebody it's a joke, it's really not that funny. That's the rule. So the two merged in 1961, and then Universalism kind of faded out. But there are a couple of congregations in Canada that considers themselves to be more Universalist than Unitarian. A congregation in Halifax, for example, and in Olinda near Leamington, Ontario. So here we in Canada use the shorthand Unitarian to mean Unitarian Universalist. However, I think it's really important not to forget our Universalist roots. Universalism is where we get that kind compassion, work from the heart, believe, like really think, get out of our heads and operate from our hearts. That's Universalism, that kind and compassionate way of being. So Unitarian Universalists are grounded in covenant. This means that instead of telling you what to believe, we give guidance on how to be together. The grounding helps us dig into our roots, help us stand up tall and strong, knowing that we are protected in our relationships and fellowship with one another. I'm going to read the UCE Covenant of Right Relations. With love as our guide, we pledge to create a beloved community of peace and compassion. We trust our ability to work through conflict. As members and friends of UCE, we agree to honor and respect diversity in values and beliefs as a source of communal strength. Be truthful, kind, and open-minded. Assume good intention and goodwill. Listen with open hearts and speak with care, even and especially when it is uncomfortable. Talk to, not about, others. Accept responsibility for our individual acts. Address conflict promptly and ask for help when conflict is too difficult. Be steadfast in support of our community in times of disagreement. Share the ministry of the congregation through our gifts of time, talent, and money. Express encouragement and appreciation for the gifts of others. This is just the first part of our covenant. Other parts will include, they're still being developed, a disruptive persons policy, what to do if we fall out of covenant with someone, steps to take to get back into covenant with the person we're having maybe a thing with. There will be a team of skilled folks that will help you through if you need. We also have a committee on shared ministry now. And if your conflict or disagreement or thing is with me, you can go to one of them first and they will help you find the right process for getting back into covenant. And those 4 people are Ellen Logan, Wendy Smith, Doug Eastwell, and David Ray. When people are in covenant, as we are all with one another, it means that we try to follow these guidelines. And because we are only human, we mess up and hurt one another. When we do that, when it hurts to be here, it is our responsibility to talk about it, to try to fix it. And there are ways and means by which to do that. Our covenant states that if we have a problem with someone, we go to that person first. If that's too difficult, I ask that you come to me and we'll do it together. If that's too difficult, or if that's not something you're willing to do, then as a person living in covenant, you wouldn't talk about it to anyone at UCE. Maybe just me. This is a new way of thinking and being. It allows people to feel safe because gossiping and talking behind someone's back is no longer acceptable. This way of digging in gives us wings to be able to explore and try new things because we know we will still be loved and accepted if we mess up. As we dig into our covenant, as we understand our roots, we will feel like we can be closer to one another, that we can form better friendships, closer alliances, that we can maybe let our guard down and get to know one another in a new way because we have a plan now if we mess up and if we're hurt. We don't just have to walk out the door and not come back. We can say, hey, there are steps to come back into covenant with one another. And covenant just means being in good relationship, having good relations. That's all it means. The last thing we can dig into our roots so that we can have wings is to share our own stories. And I figured that by now in this sermon, I'd be at about 1:15, but I'm almost at the bottom of the hour. So we share our stories to get to know one another, to learn from one another, and to learn to be in fellowship and covenant with one another. The more we hear of each other's stories, the less likely we are to fall out of covenant with one another, the more likely we are to say, hey, could you say that differently? Or that hurt my feelings. Or as we get to know one another better. So what I was planning on doing is breaking you all into groups, but as you know that when I break you into groups and you start talking, I can't make you stop talking. So what I'm going to do is suggest that over the lunch hour, when we're having soup with one another, that you tell each other your stories, how you got here, what brought you here, what do you know about Unitarian Universalism, what do you know about the history of this congregation of UCE? So the questions that I was going to have you talk to your neighbor about. What are the stories behind how you found your way here? What do you know about the origins of UCE? What is the story of your own personal spiritual journey? So I invite you to share those things with one another over lunch, and maybe in a little while I'll bring you back to this and we can do it again. So my friends, how do we dig into our roots? How does that give us wings? By knowing our history of Unitarianism, of Universalism. How did we get here? Knowing each other's stories, knowing each other's stories of UCE. There are some really interesting and funny stories about the origins of UCE, and if you have any and you're at a table, I invite you to share them. Did you know there was a singles club? Yeah. And they married each other, and they went and they did hot tubbing and stuff together. It was like awesome, so awesome. So at this time, I'm going to invite you to just take a moment and take a breath and think about those questions. What is your history with UCE? How did you get here? What do you know about each other's spiritual journeys? And then in a moment, as the Spirit moves you, as you feel like it, I invite you to light candles of joy or concern at the tables that are prepared for you. Thank you. I'll go play something while you do that. And I'll ask Jeff to light one last candle for all the joys and concerns that are unlit, unspoken, unknowing, maybe even not yet thought of. Thank you, Jeff. And in a moment, we'll be singing our last hymn. It's either 1021 or 1051 in the Green Book. 1021, thank you. I will find it, and then I will play it for you. And we're coming back to the chorus at the end. And depending on how the Spirit moves us, will depend on how many times we play it through. I'm hoping at least a couple, and I'm hoping that there'll be some swaying to the music, I hope, at least. And maybe even some clapping on 1 and 3 if we can muster it. No clapping on 1 and 4, that is correct. 2 and 4, 1 and 3 only. All right. I could use a little more light. There's a lot of notes. And so please rise. Thank you. Please rise in body and or in spirit. And we shall help each other to carry on. Ready, and... I figured if we sang it a couple more times, I might finally get in rhythm with you guys, but it didn't happen. And now I offer you words of benediction.
Shall we extinguish the flame?
should extinguish the flame first. Bonnie.
So Bonnie will help us to extinguish the flame. Before we do that though, Bonnie, I just want to mention one announcement that is sort of important. I forgot. Carol, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a card for Gordon in the back, out on the table in the back. Okay, so, and Mary's holding it up at the moment. Thank you, Mary.
Carol.
Oh, sorry, Carol. As the chalice is extinguished, consider these words selected by Reverend Rosemary. They come from Remembering That We Do Not Walk Alone by Reverend Scott Taylor. May we remember that we never walk out into the world alone. We stand on the shoulders of brave and generous ones who have gone before. We walk beside companions ready to catch us when we fall. We hold memories of dear ones in our hearts who keep us connected to our center. May we make this our most important work, to remember that those who we are does not end at the edges of our own skin. Thank you.
Now I will do the benediction. I offer you words of benediction. But before I do, I just want to thank everyone that is here, that is online, that has contributed to this service. I'll stand up here so you can see me. There's been a few people there that I haven't been able to see. So thank you all for coming, for contributing, for participating, and for putting up with my piano playing. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm a little rusty, but anyway, what's the alternative, right? Right. And so I offer you these words of benediction. Do not be dismayed by the brokenness in the world. All things can break, and all things can be mended. Some things can be mended, some things cannot. But not with time, as they say, with intention. So I invite you to go and love intentionally, love extravagantly, and love unconditionally, for the broken world waits in darkness for the love and the light that is in you. Go in peace, gentle people, go in peace. Amen. And let us gather together you don't have to hold hands, but we gather, for those of you that are new, we gather in a circle in some sort of shape, and we sing Carry the Flame. The words are up there, and I will play because I know how.